We're, we're smooth 98.1 FM. Good morning and welcome. It's time to pick up the papers and it's called Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM. You're welcome. We're glad to have you here. We've got the analysts waiting. The paper is dripping with the headlines you want to listen to and get the in-depth analysis of my guest this morning. So we just got one who's coming out of the court this morning. So definitely it would come to break out, the elephant piece for us so we can get, they say when you want to chop the elephant, sometimes where do you start from? The trunk, wherever you start from, but it's by bits. That's what we're going to do today. So let's make welcome AB Bozimo. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Great to be here on quite an eventful news day. Nice to see you, Matt. Good morning to all of our wonderful listeners.
And so let's get started while we'll get Joseph Obari to get set up, and then he can just join us from his location shortly. But let's pick up this paper now. But let's remind you, you would be able to get your thoughts across in relation to the headlines this morning on 0809-444-0981. That would be the WhatsApp platform. And then you can race down to youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos to also catch a live stream. And you can also share the links after that and come back to get to see this conversation after now. So let's pick up the Punch newspaper where it says 33 billion naira fraud. Ex-power minister collapses. Would it be like the national grid? Before trial, remanded in prison. That's from the Punch newspaper.
I like what you did there regarding the power grid and the collapse. There's something very poetic about that. Well, we hear that a former minister of power under the Buhari administration, Saleh Maman, collapsed on Thursday when he was arraigned for an alleged 33 billion naira fraud. I'd read somewhere else that it was 22 billion. So somewhere it has risen by 11 billion, just like we hope our power grid will rise in future. Now, it is said that he came into the premises of the court drenched. Evidently, he had collapsed. And as people will say in Pidgin, we don't see this scope before. Typically, they are very healthy. I guess there's something very refreshing about the air conditioning inside bulletproof ministerial jeeps. So they tend to stay very healthy. But once they leave office, it seems as if their health matters become very troubled. So he is accused of money laundering. As Femi, the great Femi Falana said, this thing like money laundering may not be as clear as stealing. If you tell somebody your father was accused of money laundering, it seems a bit abstract. If they're accused of stealing money, it's a bit more direct. It's a court case. It's an allegation. It must be stated that at this moment he is guaranteed innocent because the proceedings haven't happened. He is not yet seen guilty. But when you think of the challenge, including what you said on the lighter note, power grid collapse, you had a minister who sat over that particular ministry. And Nigeria, I think it was 2, 3, 4 days ago, we had a collapse that was reported. Up till now, I worry about how people fail to seize the opportunity of service to actually move the ball forward and make a difference. Now, we will hear from his defense lawyer, we'll hear the defense he'll put up as to whether or not these allegations are provable or true. But for now, he collapsed, he was revived with some water, hence he's being wet, and they have now remanded him in Kuje Correctional Center pending the hearing of his bail application. So this is just, he is said to have conspired with staff of the ministry to deal with things to do with Zungeru and Mambila hydroelectric power projects to divert about 33 billion. I really wonder what a billionaire looks like. I wonder how much bole and granite I can buy with 33 billion naira. What do people really want when they're doing these alleged crimes?
Because I'm still looking at the story, I see a point where it seemed like he's due back. Would he be strong? He's due back in court today because it was adjourned to today. And then I also understand that for just to bring those up to speed, who are just joining in between 2019 and 2021, He had served under the former President Muhammadu Buhari as minister in different capacity. Anyway, let's drift on from that and go over to next, the Nation newspaper. Well, the Nation newspaper is what we've got in front of us. And well, this is relating to it says federal government to offer the National Association of Road Transport Workers and Owners, NATO, and all the other stakeholders their free of charge compressed natural gas kits installation. That's the Nation newspaper. How would this translate to cheaper transportation for us?
Okay, we've heard about this initiative that the federal government is doing to try and provide CNG as an alternate source for, transportation, both private individuals and public transportation. So um, they're getting together with some of those bodies, NARTO, NURTW, RETAN, to give them a 100% discount on services so that from 123 certified conversion workshops, these people will be able to bring their vehicles and have them converted to start running either wholly or partially on CNG, which should therefore reduce the demand on PMS or petrol as we know it, and hopefully translate directly to lowered transportation fares. So the initiative is very, very noble. Now we'll go to the execution. There are 23 states in the federation where these processes will be undertaken. And hopefully there will be, I always remember my first and most impressive, or let me say my most impressive interaction with the Nigerian government was when the NIMC was initiated. At that point, in the privacy of my home or my office, then I was able to log into the website, put in my information onto a site, pick my appointment time and date. And I went there as appointed, and all the information was pulled up. I confirmed it, and there my ID was assigned or whatever. So we're talking about a system that is proven and has worked. If we use this for the NURT W vehicles, then people can set up their appointments and there doesn't have to be unnecessary queuing and all that. Let's use what we have. Ultimately, it's to make sure that we have cheaper fuel to move a lot of our public transportation vehicles. And I believe that will help in people moving around different parts of the country and different states.
And this CNG, it's all from the backdrop of the removal of the fuel subsidy. And this is where it's been a journey long coming up till this moment as a way of getting cheaper transportation.
Very correct. Very correct.
All right, let's move over now and let you know we can begin to read your messages. Let's get your messages coming across now onto the number 0809-444-0981 will be where we like to read your messages. So let's get these messages we've got here already now. First, let's get Fidelis' message out of the way. We've got, it says, well, Fidelis from Shomolu says, well, apologies, but just see that the angle that I'm coming from, as in, as much as I support 100% the autonomy, local government autonomy, but which judge would have ruled against it with the president in power? And please, I want to ask, but Buhari didn't something on this, but the governors went to court and got their judgment, and that part of the Constitution was not reviewed. What grounds, other grounds that is available before they did this to rule this judgment? Please explain. And this is where we go now to the man who we have to get out of the courtroom quickly to help us sort out this mystery in this judgment. And that we say good morning to Joe Obari.
You're
you have to unmute.
Okay, thanks, gentlemen. Good morning, Omad. Thanks, Ebi. Sorry, I had a bit of technical challenges this morning.
On a day like this, when we need to test, we want to put Bozimo. That's what we are going to. It's come help us chop down this elephant of a
Maybe
judgment.
I'm being saved from the controversy, you know. So okay, so the Supreme
So
Court has put up
the Vanguard, from the Vanguard.
yeah,
So
the
it
Supreme Court
says, it says the Supreme Court verdict on local government autonomy. We have taken judgment in good faith. That's according to Governors Soludo and Otu. And I like from what the Vanguard has done, they've gone ahead to collate all the bodies of people, eminent past governors and all that. So help us walk us through this.
Yeah, okay. So everybody has got the opinion, but what is gladdening is that the governors in humility are saying that they would respect at least the few of them who have spoken have said they are going to take this judgment, advisement, and reflect on it and see how they're going to operate. But a whole lot of issues are raised by this judgment. By the way, I need to say that my colleagues in the media keep mixing up the expression ruling and judgment. That is an aside. This is a judgment, it's not a ruling. Ruling is usually interlocutory, something that a decision the court makes on some matter that has come up before it. So it's wrong to say it's a Supreme Court ruling. It's a decision of the Supreme Court. It's a judgment of the Supreme Court, or it's a pronouncement of the Supreme Court. So this decision of the Supreme Court in trying to is trying to create to solve a mischief, really, which has arisen because the legislature that should ordinarily have seen need to amend the constitution accordingly to ensure that the autonomy the local government enjoys is really absolute, and that but now the relevant section of the constitution that talks about joint account and so on is still there. And then the Supreme Court comes up to now say, look, you have to remit money directly to local government, the 774 local governments. State governors cannot interfere, cannot take their money and all that. So it seems as if it's a violation of the provision, the spirit of the Constitution. But like I said, it's an attempt to cure a mischief, because what the governors were doing was simply just whittling down the power of local government and running it as if it's just a department in one of their ministries. And that shouldn't be encouraged. Now, the question is, what should we do now? The governors don't have any choice. When they say, oh, well, we don't have a choice, they don't have any choice because the Supreme Court has spoken. And even if they are not happy with the judgment of the Supreme Court, there's no other court they can go to challenge that, what they consider unconstitutional, as Obari said. Obari said it's unconstitutional and all that. Yeah, but what can you do about it? What really can you do about it? You want to challenge the Supreme Court? How are you going to do it? Go back to the Supreme Court and say, okay, reverse yourself, because your decision, your judgment runs counter to the spirit of the Constitution. So it's in itself, it seems like we are trying to solve a problem we created. The only solution would be that the National Assembly, if they are really serious honest about their work, should see the need, or the executive, the president, should actually propose an amendment of that section of the Constitution to align it with the decision of the Supreme Court.
The governors from this judgment are placed, maybe I'll get to you shortly. They're now in a dilemma as it stands. They swore to uphold the letter, the spirit of the Constitution. Now they've got this judgment. The Constitution is now that section where you talk about the joint account. It's not their creation, it's what is in the Constitution. So in the absence of an amendment, where do they go from here? How would this judgment be interpreted or even implemented? Joe, the ball is in your court. All right, let's go over to Joseph. Abi.
Now, yesterday I heard somebody saying that the courts, yeah, so okay, so let me just add something. I hear somebody say the courts cannot legislate, but there's what we call judicial legislation. this is almost like that, where in interpreting this, the law, they create a law more or less. So this has changed the nomenclature or an interpretation of that relevant section of the Constitution. Yeah, so there's a problem. It's a bind because there is something the governors can do because they have to obey the court order anyway. Then if they are not satisfied with the pronouncement of the Supreme Court, then they have to go back to the Supreme Court to say, okay, your decision is counter to the Constitution. You should reverse yourself. And I don't think that the Supreme Court on this matter, because it's a very knotty issue, would want to listen to the governors and reverse itself on this very position.
AB.
I'll just say, without the benefit of the magnificent legal mind of Joseph, there are three things that come to me at least. One, each citizen is supposed to now go and read the Nigerian Constitution to understand what your local government is supposed to be doing for you. Before now, the temptation is always to point at the president. It was Jonathan, it was Buhari, it was Tinubu. Now, your local government chairman has to be accountable and responsible to you. Two, there was a time in Nigeria where they used to publish how much money went not just to the states, but to each local government all over the country. That should return. Let me know how many billions came to my local government where I live or reside, and let us now have the conversations about what the money is being used for. You hear of people appointing 300 aides. If that's, let us understand why you need 300 aides if you are just in office. What are they aiding you to do? And last of all, I think this, since we're talking about taking government down to the local level, let us revisit the conversation about resource control. Listen, why should the local government wait for a subvention? Let the local government generate its own money based on its natural resources and human resources and pay to the federal government. Let's do this right. Let's not be taking pieces and parts of the American system and then grafting some leprous component on it. In America, the counties and the states are federating, they operate and they pay to the center. So some states are rich and some states are poor. And there is competition between the states to become more relevant. They put sales tax in some cases, they do all sorts of things, and you live according to the conditions in that state. And there's competition. You might move from one state to another because your life can be better there. Let there be that. Not that you sit down and 109 of you and 360 of you are all driving Jeeps. Meanwhile, some of you are not contributing in any way at the state level.
So to wrap up this, it's an ongoing conversation.
There's another aspect. Yeah. The other aspect of this judgment is the democratically elected local government officers, which is touched upon. And now, right now, in more than about 21 states really don't have elected local government. So there are issues there. And the judgment says that this money should be paid only to elected local government. So there are a whole lot of issues that this judgment throws up. And it's quite interesting to see what happens the next days.
No, so as we rest this issue, to pick up the next one, now the judgment has come. Do you see the federal government in the next, or fact, let's look at it, fact now, in the next distribution of the allocation revenue, do you see them now paying outside the joint accounts? Because it's a judgment we have got now.
I don't see, the Constitution doesn't give us another account to create right now. If not, as a governor, I'll create my personal pocket, or a local government chairman will create his personal pocket. Until something is done, in my view, at the constitutional level, we have a logjam. So maybe the way we're able to pass a national anthem in 24 minutes, we should change the Constitution in 24 minutes so that we can get past that piece of the logjam.
Okay, let's bring in messages. I've got this, reacting now. Dr. Sheun Odiase from Surulere says, they always collapse. It's becoming a circus. I wonder how these people sleep at night, a den of corrupt individuals. That's what Dr. Sheun Otiase from Surulere has to say on this matter. And JP would come in saying, giving transport bodies free kits is one thing, transparency is another. The cost of the kits and flexibility of payment on low digit finance is another. And so it goes on, the committee needs to do this right. If we get this right, the transport cost reduces by about 45 to 50%. The devil is in the details. That's from JP. And Dyer comes up with a lengthy one from Fagba saying, there is a saying, when a purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable, or yeah, for this government. Tell me any of the ministry that has worked so far in the last 1 year. All this ministry is for all APC loyalists, and it goes on. But this was for yesterday. So how did this message got delayed? Let's move on now to the next message from Ajayi Olunilua, who says the minister that is now collapsing in court never did anything to collapsing national grid during all the years in office. It was in charge. It was instead busy laundering money meant allegedly. That's what Ajayi Olunilua from Magudu Jari Sherry has to say on this matter. And Abbas would come up with a word here for us. He says, an analyst who is a lawyer was already condemning the Supreme Court if they gave favorable judgment to the federal government yesterday, saying, and we never can tell, and he may be even listening to now. I hope he eats his word or his foot would be in his mouth right now, saying it will be against the Constitution. But I expected that he should have told the listener the judges sometimes use the purposive rule of the interpretation on issues of constitution, but anything from the federal government must be condemned. We should always look beyond written words when interpreting certain things. This is a win for local government. Local government election is another we are looking forward to. I've got more messages, so I need to bring in more, so I'll get to the paper shortly. And Joe from Surulere says, please, is it written in the Nigerian constitution not to call past president for questioning during his tenure, where some things went wrong, just like other countries of the world? Do ask questions. Joe, just a one-liner for this one. Joseph?
Sorry?
Someone is asking, is it out of place or not in the
I can hear you. What?
The listener just asked, is it, if it is written in the Nigerian constitution not to call a past president?
There is nothing in our constitution.
Go on.
No, there is nothing in our constitution that gives immunity to there is nothing in our constitution that gives immunity to the president after he's left office. As long as that matter is not something that pertains to, that is covered by his immunity while he's in office.
Okay. Let's walk up to the premium
I don't know if you get that.
Yes, we did. And the listener hopefully got it now. The Premium Times is next. And I understand, AB, this is for you. 2 prison inmates die of cholera in Lagos. Just briefly, how can we get past this?
You know, it's just a further part of the saga, the sad saga of the cholera that's spreading. 2 people, one was brought in dead, the other died the following morning in hospital. What we have to understand is, because of the nature of cholera, the possibility does exist that other people in that correctional facility are also affected. Every possible means must be applied to try and identify and isolate others who might have it and get them the very necessary medical attention, so that the fact that they committed crimes doesn't condemn them to death because of the conditions under which they are. Again, we have to ask, what are the situations for potable water in that facility? What are the other medical facilities available and all that? You know, you have these things, but they are not separated from the rest of Nigeria. When things are not going right, you'll have these pockets of unfortunate events. I hope that they'll be properly given dignified burials, and if there's anything that's supposed to happen as compensation to the families, they ought to get it. But we must kill the scourge of cholera by doing the right thing in our urban planning and in our facility management.
I return to juggling some more messages along the way now. I find Alex waiting. Alex Abel comes in saying, demands of justice require a progressive interpretation of the law. It is the position of this court that is giving us an excerpt of yesterday's ruling. That's what it serves us, right? So that's what I'm looking at. It is the position of this court that the Federation can pay local government allocations to the local governments directly or pay them through the states. In this case, since paying them through states has not worked, justice of this case demands that local government allocations from the Federation account should henceforth be paid directly to local government areas. That's what the Apex Court held. That's according to Alex Abel right now. So let's go over now to Joe. We apparently will just need you in court. That's where we need you to be right now. So take us back to court this morning again, and where the Daily Trust reports this headline: Court orders Ganduje's trial in absentia. What does this mean?
Yeah, okay. So there have been several attempts to get Ganduje to appear in the court to answer the cases against him in Kano, but he's been evading appearance in court. And of course, when that happens, the court has two options: either to order your arrest and bring you to court or whatever, or that you should be tried in absentia. I think the only option the judge has chosen is to say it should be tried in absentia, which is very funny because in criminal matters, the person who is being tried is supposed to be standing there in court in the dock, and then we take his plea and all that and all that. So it's just like a circus or what's going on in the courts in Kano there. But I think they are left with no option but to take what seems like a political choice. In say other than ordering that he should be brought before the court, arrested and brought before the court. And they're saying try him in absentia. And also when he's found guilty, what happens? How are you going to take him to prison if he's jailed? So a whole lot of questions. It's funny. I think that this shouldn't be because if it's just an ordinary person, would the court have said the person should be tried in absentia? That's the question.
All right, I've got more messages in here, but the final paper would be at the table for AB, the Tribune. Just hold on for a moment. Emeka from Bagada says, local government to generate its own revenue, you don't want to go down that slope. You can easily see how this will be abused down the line. That's Emeka's thoughts this morning. Ibrahim Zachary comes up saying, well, I empathize with you guys analyzing the tragic stories of our nation daily. I have said it before on this platform. Where there are no consequences to impunity, abuse is certain. This collapsing former minister is another drama unveiling. Nothing would come out of it. It's gonna be business as usual. Who will bail the cat? That's what Ibrahim Zachary has to say. And Yinka Bolu says, I find it quite difficult to understand why the state government wants to keep an eye on the local government funds. I beg, is it your own? Now, the good news for me is the local government chairman are easily accessible to us on the streets, so we will do the needful when the time comes. Don't ask me what. Also, the states should hands off local government elections. Also, the era of local government chairman on the mainland living on the island must stop. This is in the case of someone in Lagos. That's what it is. So let's go on to Benito, who says, ruling on the constitutionality of local government independence in operation and establishment upon autonomy of local government is a smoking mirror under the Tinubu's government until the people in the local government truly elect their local government chairman. Then we get it right. That's Benito's thoughts this morning. And who would I find waiting for us now? Okay, I find Deja Vu here who says, the purposeful theory will only work if there is no prescribed procedure in place. There is a procedure clearly stated in the Constitution, and it is extremely baffling that sometimes this simple cannot be comprehended. Again, the Supreme Court, in his opinion, gets it wrong. Ambo from Badagry comes up saying, I was passing by Badagry prison on Wednesday. The prison is full in front of the lagoon. It's in front of the lagoon. The smell was horrible, even outside the prison. Bilade Ambo. So it goes back to echo what you were talking about the cholera issue around of those two prisoners and what we can do to give them decent living, even though they are paying their time to society. I find next will be here for us, Oluwaseyi's message. The great thing about the judgment is that local governments won't be subservient to the state governments. The states won't be in control of the finances of local government. Local government chairman won't be prostrating to the state governments to declare their loyalty. And states won't just decide whether or not to hold elections or whether to appoint them, or even when they do so, at least all this has been put to rest. We will deal with the other issues later. I find Deja Vu waiting already. And okay, Deji, Adegboyega's message is what I'm looking at. The collapse tactics is part of one of the advice given to the accused by his lawyers. Joe, respond on behalf of your colleagues. Is this it? Defend your colleagues. They are not here.
I don't know that lawyers. I don't know that lawyers that write scripts for Nollywood and drama. I don't know about that.
And it goes on to say this pattern has become part of the judiciary in its spelling. That's what I have to put out. Unfortunately, it has come to stay. Maybe it should be taught in the law school too. Since you don't know, maybe we should teach it there. That's what it says. Aisha, I see your message, but AB, quickly help us just close up this in just about 2 sentences. Tribune, there's an ongoing conversation. It says, we are optimistic Tinubu will increase minimum wage figure, according to Labour. Just in 2
The president
sentences.
said, we have to cut our cloth according to our size. That's the same president making a new ministry for livestock. I just don't understand how the president says one thing but does another. We will see. Labour saying 250. The last presentation by the government was 62. Let's see which of them will prevail. At the end of the day, on that local government thing, let me just say the central issue should be about the people, not between states and local government, because I'm hearing a lot of potential rancor. It's not about these two people. It's about the people who should be served. And that's what we must do, to hold our elected officials to account. Let them publish how many billions every local government gets. Then you tell me, I won't go to a local government office and say, what are you doing with the money?
See that. The point's taken now. But this is the point where we say thank you to everyone. Yinka Bole, I see you typing. Aisha, Deji, Adegboyega, AB Ambo, Deja Vu, Anthony, Benito, Yinka, Ibrahim Zachary, Emeka, Alex, Tajuddin, King Joe, Abbas, Ajayi. I see all your messages. Thank you guys so much. And I come to say big thank you to the gentleman this morning, Joe Obari, for your time. Thank you for always for giving us your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
And
listeners.
to AB.
Sir Omat of the Awesome Sweaters, it's always a pleasure working with you, and we'll do it again very soon, sometime, somewhere.
All right. And you know what they say? Anyway, you know what? On Fridays, there are no goodbyes, but see you later. Thank you guys so much. That's Freshly Pressed.